Hawa, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also, want to acknowledge all the Akyam pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. And shalom to the elect. All right, so I'm going to go in today on Bel and the dragon in the Apocrypha. I'm going to start at verse 1. It says, And King Astyages was gathered to his fathers, and Cyrus of Persia received his kingdom. And Daniel conversed with the king and was honored above all his friends. Now the Babylonians had an idol called Bel, and there were spent upon him every day 12 great measures of fine flour, and 40 sheep, and 6 vessels of wine. So Bel was an idol, right? The Babylonians had an idol, just like these modern Babylonians have all these false idols. So it's nothing new under the sun. Verse 4. And the king worshipped it and went daily to adore it. But Daniel worshipped his own God, which was Yahweh. And the king said unto him, Why dost not thou worship Baal? And it is Baal, which all of these, any idol that's not Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, which they're not idols, but any power is an idol. So Yahweh always reserves his elect that don't worship the idols. That's why the king's asking Daniel, how come you don't worship Baal? In verse 5, who answered and said, Because I may not worship idols made with hands, but the living power, Yahweh, who hath created the heaven and earth, and hath sovereignty over all flesh. And that's the same spirit we're in. You know, we worship the living God, the living power, which there's only one. All right. Then said the king unto him, Thinkest thou that not that Bel is a living power? Seest thou not how he eateth and drinketh every day? And you know that said earlier that they would give him fine flour, 40 sheep, and 6 vessels of wine. But let's keep reading, because Daniel is about to prove him wrong. In verse 7, it says, Then Daniel smiled and said, O king, be not deceived, for this is but clay within and brass without, and did never eat or drink anything, you see. So he was like, nah, he ain't even the one eating or drinking this. So the king was wroth and called for his priests and said unto them, If ye tell me not who this is that devoureth these expenses, ye shall die. He's like, the king challenges Daniel. He's like, you know, Bel been eating these sheep, eating this flour, eating these vessels of wine, you know, because the heathen, they actually think their gods and their idols are real. They actually really believe in their false idols. Verse 9. But if ye can certify me that Bel devoureth them, then Daniel shall die, for he hath spoken blasphemy against Bel. And Daniel said unto the king, Let it be according to thy word. So Daniel was about to put his money where his mouth was. Why? Because he had faith. He trusted in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Verse 10, Now the priests of Bel were 70, so there were 70 of them, besides their wives and children, and the king went with Daniel into the temple of Bel. So Bel's priests said, Lo, we go out, but thou, O king, set on the meat, and make ready the wine, and shut the door fast, and seal it with thine own signet. And tomorrow, when thou comest in, if thou findest not that Bel hath eaten up all, we will suffer death, or else Daniel that speaketh falsely against us. And they regarded it, for under the table they had a privy entrance, whereby they entered in continually and consumed those things. So it was literally those priests that would go in and eat the food and drink the wine and eat the flour, which they were making things like tortillas or some type of bread with the flour. But they had a private place, a private entrance where they would go and eat and consume the things, consume the food. It wasn't Bel, which was the false idol, which cannot eat, cannot drink. Let's see if I can grab that. Oh, you know what? It's in Wisdom of Solomon 14. Let's get that real quick. Well, I'll read 11. 14:11. Therefore, even upon the idols of the Gentiles shall there be a visitation, because in the creature of God they are become an abomination and stumbling blocks to the souls of men, and a snare to the feet of the unwise. And a snare is a trap. And these false gods, these false idols, just like Bel that we're reading about, that's a trap. Because why? You have actually some of our people who believe that thing. Just like you fast forward to modern Babylon, right? Babylon the Great, when they stumble at Jesus, they think they think he's a real God. It says, verse 12, for the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them the corruption of life. Because if you're pushing these false idols and you believe in these false gods, you're literally, that's fornication. You're being a spiritual whore. Because if you're an Israelite, you actually have a power, Yahweh. But if you're believing in all these other gods, you're like a woman going out on her husband. Because Yahweh looks at you like you're cheating, right? And really you're cheating yourself. But let me see there. I'm looking for a specific one that talks about how they can't eat. Since we're reading about Bel. They can't consume, food. They don't breathe. They don't walk. If they fall over, they can't pick themselves up. And I can't find it here, so that's okay. That's all right. We'll go back to Bel and the dragon. Verse 14, it says, so when they were gone forth, the king set meats before Bel. Now Daniel had commanded his servants to bring ashes, and those they strewed throughout all the temple, and in the presence of the king alone. Then went they out and shut the door and sealed it with the king's signet, and so departed. So he put those ashes on the ground, right? And it was only the king that knew about that. So let's see what happened. Now in the night came the priests with their wives and children, as they were wont to do, and did eat and drink up all. So there they went. The fake priests, false priests, and their wives and children, they went in there to go eat all the food. And they were going to say that Bel consumed the food, which was a lie. In the morning betime, the king arose, and Daniel with him. And the king said, Daniel, are the seals whole? And he said, yeah, O king, they be whole. So yeah, the seals were still not broken on the door with the signet, right? But it was because they had that private entrance. That's how they entered. So it's all deception. That's what false idols, false gods, that's what they are. They're set up to deceive, right? It's not truth, it's a lie. Because if it was really actually Baal consuming the food, they wouldn't have had to take these measures of having priests and their families go in and eat the food. Verse 17, and the king said, Daniel, are the seals whole? And he said, Yeah, O king, they be whole. And as soon as he had opened the door, the king looked upon the table and cried with a loud voice, Great art thou, O Baal, and with thee is no deceit at all. And that's the spirit, because I just said that they are deceit. But guess what? And I lied, I just laughed. Well, guess what? Same thing with Daniel. He laughed. Verse 19. Then laughed Daniel and held the king that he should not go in, and said, Behold, now the pavement and the mark well, those footsteps are these. Well, whose footsteps are these? Because remember, he put the ashes in there. Because you got to remember, Daniel was wise, right? You couldn't just pull a fast one on Daniel. Just like the prophets, we can't be deceived. You can't deceive the elect. Let's grab that real quick. You can't deceive the elect in any shape, way, form, or fashion. All right? So Daniel knew what it was. He's like, whose footsteps are these? If Baal ate and consumed the food, well, then whose footsteps are these? While the king is being ignorant, sitting there praising Baal and paying homage to Baal. But you can't deceive the elect, man. Matthew 24, and is it 24? For there shall arise false Hamashiachs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. So it's not possible to deceive the elect. And Daniel, just like the prophets of today in this age, you can't deceive us. We know the truth. Yahweh gives us a spirit of discernment, a spirit of understanding, a spirit just like Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, which we can't be deceived. And we'll laugh at anything else, that tries to come up against the truth. So I'm at Baal 1 and, where am I at? 20. And the king said, I see the footsteps of the men, women, and children. And then the king was angry. So see, now he saw the footsteps in the ashes and got pissed off. And took the priests with their wives and children, and showed him the privy doors where they came in, and consumed such things as were upon the table. Therefore the king slew them, and delivered Baal into Daniel's power, who destroyed him and his temple. And in that same place there was a great dragon, which they of Babylon worship. That's why it's called Baal and the dragon. And it's not a coincidence that Esau Edom is the serpent, right? The so-called white man. Because why? He worships these false idols, right? Anything from idolatry or wickedness or Baal, it's all, whether it was the Hamites in ancient Egypt all the way up to now, and even we're reading this account here in Babylon, they're all in that wicked spirit, which deals with dragons and serpents, right? Because we got to remember, a serpent is a symbol of wisdom and craftiness. And that's what these heathen take on. They're crafty. They're deceptive, right? It says in verse 23, and in that same place there was a great dragon which they of Babylon worshipped. Verse 24, and the king said unto Daniel, Wilt thou also say that this is of brass? Lo, he liveth, he eateth and drinketh. Thou canst not say that he is now no living power, therefore worship him. So now he had already proved Baal was a false idol. So now he's about to do the same thing with the dragon. Then said Daniel unto the king, I will worship Yahweh my power, for he is the living God. You see, the elect, we're firmly set in our foundation. And our foundation is this truth, all right? And our elect men have always had this spirit. We're dealing with Daniel in Babylon. Now you have the prophets here in Babylon the Great. We have the same spirit. You can't shake us. You can't take us from the true power. All right? And that's in the scripture too. Let's grab that. Let's see. We'll go to John 10 and 27 for that. Because we're set firmly in the truth. There's nothing that can, if you're of the elect, nothing can take you from Yahweh's hand. No false idol, no woman, nothing. John 10 and 27. My sheep hear my voice. This is Yahweh Shai speaking. My sheep hear my voice, and the sheep are the elect, and the voice is the truth. And I know them, and they follow me. And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father, which gave them me, is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one. Meaning Yahweh Shai, it doesn't mean they're the same person. It means they're the same, they come in the same spirit. Just like the body of the men, the men who are a part of this body, part of this truth, part of this tabernacle, we are all one, meaning we're on one accord, all right? Just like Daniel, just like the prophet Daniel. Guess what? I'm not going to be fooled by a snare or a trap, which are these idols, all right? Because the men of the 144,000, and then the elect who believes, the prophets, believes the Lord's men, we can't be plucked out. We're firmly set in, this is our foundation, this truth. Yahweh gave us a spirit of faith and understanding and according to knowledge, okay? So we can't be plucked out. We can't be deceived. You can't deceive the elect. Just like Daniel was not deceived in the story I'm reading. This is Baal and the Dragon. And let's see, verse 26. It's a lot. I gotta blow my nose. All right, verse 26. It says, "But give me leave, O king, and I shall slay this dragon without sword or staff." The king said, "I give thee leave." Then Daniel took pitch and fat and hair, and did seethe them together, and made lumps thereof. This he put in the dragon's mouth, and so the dragon burst in sunder. And Daniel said, "Lo, these are the gods ye worship." When they of Babylon heard that they took great that when they of Babylon heard that, they took great indignation and conspired against the king, saying, "The king is become a Jew, and he hath destroyed Baal, and he hath slain the dragon, and put the priest to death." So these Babylonians, they were all pissed off. This would be like if they took your old boy White Jesus and slayed him. Then you'd have a lot of people pissed off here in modern Babylon. People would call for the king's death. People would call, you know what I'm saying? Like if like they got their Project Bluebeam, which is going to deceive a lot of people. So, they're going to fake the second coming, and they're going to have a white Jesus in the sky. And then if that white Jesus, which he's not going to be able to deliver anybody, when they realize that it was just a fake Project Bluebeam, a hoax, because the government is planning to do all this. But these people are going to be in a rage. They're going to be pissed off. This is what Daniel's doing with the dragon, Bel and the dragon. That's what we do as prophets. We break down strongholds, right? Pulling down strongholds. So Bel and the dragon was a stronghold during the time of Babylon, and now you have all these other gods or false gods and fake idols and wrong philosophies. These are all traps and snares on our people now. These are strongholds on our people today. The same thing's going to happen. They're going to be proved wrong, proved with no power. All right. There's only one power, man. That's Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai. That's the only power on the planet Earth and the universe. All the other false idols, false gods, they're nothing. Just like in Daniel's time, same thing here in modern Babylon. Verse 29. So they came to the king and said, "Deliver us, Daniel, or else we will destroy thee and thine house." Now when the king saw that they pressed him sore, being constrained, he delivered Daniel unto them. So he was stressed out. Verse 31. Who cast him into the lion's den, where he was 6 days. And in the den there were 7 lions, and they had given them every day 2 carcasses and 2 sheep, which then were not given to them, to intent they might devour Daniel. So they put 7 lions in the den with Daniel, and they were feeding them. But then when they threw Daniel in there, they stopped feeding him because they were like, we were trying to have. They wanted the prophet dead, just like Esau Edom. He's going to try to put his hands on the prophets today. There's going to come a time when he's going to try and put us to death. You see. So this is verse 33. Now there was a Jewry, a prophet called Habakkuk, who had made pottage and had broken bread in a bowl and was going into the field for it to bring it to the reapers. But the angel of Yahweh said unto Habakkuk, Go carry the dinner that thou hast into Babylon unto Daniel, who is in the lion's den. So we're reading about the prophet Habakkuk. And Habakkuk said, Yahweh, I never saw Babylon, neither do I know where the den is. And the angel of Yahweh took him by the crown and bare him by the hair of his head. And through the vehemency of his spirit set him in Babylon over the den. So the spirit led Habakkuk to the lion's den. Verse 37, And Habakkuk cried, saying, O Daniel, take the dinner which the Most High hath sent thee. And Daniel said, Thou hast remembered me, O Yahweh, neither hast thou forsaken them that seek thee and love thee. So I didn't even remember this part of the story, but Habakkuk, the prophet Habakkuk, he was sent by the Holy Spirit to the lion's den to feed Daniel, which is Yopah, because I don't remember this part of the story. But this is verse 38, 39. So Daniel arose and did eat, and the angel of Yahweh set Habakkuk in his own place again immediately. And upon the 7th day the king went to bewail Daniel, and when he came to the den, he looked in, and behold, Daniel was sitting. So the king came back to check on Daniel, because remember, they didn't feed those lions, but guess who got fed? Daniel got fed, but he was still in the den, and none of the lions laid a paw on him. Let's keep reading. Verse 41. Then cried the king with a loud voice, saying, Great art Yahweh, the power of Daniel, and there is none other beside thee. And he drew him out and cast those that were cause of his destruction into the den, and they were devoured in a moment before his face. Boom. So you see how Yahweh is, man? If you put your trust and your faith in Yahweh, guess what? You ain't going to be devoured by the lions. He's going to keep you safe. He's going to protect you. You believe in this truth, you're going to be you're gonna have a hedge around you, protection. And that hedge is Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. But your enemies, guess what? They're gonna get devoured right before your face. So, hey, that's a beautiful story, proving that these gods, these idols, they ain't shit. The only thing that has any power is Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai in this truth. And the only ones who have protection are the Lord's men. All right. And the ones who believe their words. Well, it's actually Yahweh's words. He puts his words in our mouth. But if you believe this truth, if you believe the Lord's mouth, which are his prophets, you're going to be protected. All right. And we're coming into the times right now where they're going to be serious times, and you're going to need that protection. So you got to have the faith to believe, man. So with that, I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah Kudash. Double honors goes out to the other apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing this truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom to the elect.